Pardon?
Is the background distracting? Because otherwise I could put a normal one on.
Don't really know, to be honest. It does flicker out in and out a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's 1 minute it's there. Without having a green screen behind you, it does tend to like pixelate a bit every now and again.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it's not a problem. I mean, it's not a problem at all. Keep it there if you want to keep it there.
Well, we'll go with it. If I need to, I'll just disappear into the background.
Cool. Right. Well, what we'll do, Dawn, is we'll just have a good old chat. This is the first time. I never really won for writing loads of notes down, but this is the first time I have wrote literally a couple of words down on a piece of paper, and that is it. So we'll just literally see how it goes. But what I wanted to talk to you about is a little bit about you growing up, if you're happy with that, and a little bit about 60s and music and stuff like that. And well, a little bit about that. Take it how you want. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Thought we could talk a little bit about spirituality and some of the stuff that you use, and then finish up talking a little bit about, perhaps you setting up a future podcast and, talking about projects that you want to get involved in, and a little bit about education or something like that.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Sounds perfect.
Cool. Right. Where we'll go, shall we? On this episode, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have Dawn Chrystal. Now, is that your surname, Dawn? Is it Dawn Chrystal?
Yeah, that's my real name.
It is your real name?
Yeah, that is.
That's fantastic. Because in a bit, we're going to be talking a little bit about some mediumship and some of the stuff that you do with your spirituality and stuff. So having a surname Chrystal, that's pretty freaking awesome, isn't it?
Well, one thing I really loved through all my life was my name. I think.
Yes.
I think, I'm just glad it wasn't Chrystal Dawn. I'd like to be a pop star or something, wouldn't I?
Awesome. So how the hell are you anyway? Have you been keeping well with all this phase 2 COVID times? I mean, to me, I think it's a load of trash, to be honest with you. But, how are you keeping? Are you and your family safe?
Yeah, we're all safe, actually. I think I've had a few kind of rebellious moments where I want to go, it's not happening. But then I see someone's ill and I think, okay, let's be a bit respectful. And, I think it's kind of, if we can all do our little bit, just look after ourselves and, be respectful, then I think we'll get through this.
Well, I don't know what it's like up in Norfolk where you are, but down here in the south, we've kind of shied away from it all, to be honest with you, for the whole time. And it's beginning to get a little bit squeaky bum time. There's a few people that we know close to home that have sadly had some bad news regarding their family. And I can't really talk anything more about that as respect for them. But, it's beginning to get a little bit close to home, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, I've heard a couple of people I know who've lost partners or friends, and I'm like, I think that's too real for me. I think a lot of people are still walking around. Like, we went to the beach today and it was a beautiful day, and there's still a lot of people out there, and I don't blame them because we all got a little bit of freedom, but it's like a lot of people are still walking around like nothing's happening, and it's like, it's a bit surreal at the moment for me.
It is. Yeah. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am actually, for the people that can see me on YouTube, because I do a YouTube channel now, right? Yeah. Dawn, I don't know where she is. She looks like she's on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And I'm sat here in a freaking shirt. I've had to have a shave and everything now because it's all right doing these YouTube channels, but I can't be a scruffy urchin anymore. I used to record podcasts, well, not sat in me pants, but in me shorts and me T-shirt. And now I've got to like have a shave and have a shirt on and everything.
Okay. Well, this time I'm normally in my dressing gown, so you're lucky today. When you said you were dressing up, I thought, well, I better do the pie.
Well, I will add that from the top up, I've got a shirt and a shave, but below I've just got a pair of shorts on. So just as well, the camera's not going below.
Too much information.
That's right. Anyway, Dawn. So first of all, right, tell my listener a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, from a very young age, I think if I explain my little bit story, or whose story, it depends how many days you've got, really. But it's like my understanding of who I was. I think from a young age I learned to be very quiet and withdrawn because it was a safer place to be. And when I was at school, that was a kind of free-for-all where you could put your hand up, you could be who you wanted to be, until people started ridiculing me and told me off, and someone smacked me around the head, and I stood up and did a speech on stage and nothing came out. And the headmaster shouted at me and said I was an idiot. And from that, it felt like there was nowhere safe to be. And so I learned to be really quiet from a very young age.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, then Dawn, what decade did you go to school in?
Well, I was born 58, So early 60s.
So what was it like? What was school like in the UK in the 60s? I mean, I went to school in the 80s, and you know, now it's completely different again.
Yeah.
So, going back 20 years before my time, what was it like going to school in the 60s?
Well, to me, I just wanted to get away. So I don't really think I enjoyed the experience at all. So for me, if you asked me what school was about, I just thought it seemed like a waste of time because I couldn't
Yeah.
take on board what they're talking about. I couldn't remember what they were on about. I felt as though I was more staring out the window. I just felt this need to be away from there. So
Yeah.
if you ask me what my school experience was, I think I was always wishing I was somewhere else. And that's
Yeah.
all I can remember about it. And
We had a chat. We had
yeah,
a chat, a little Skype chat a couple of weeks ago, and it was funny because we was talking, and it's funny really how you get drawn to people. And I was drawn from you, for a couple of weeks ago, basically, when you started talking about being at school. Even though we was a couple of decades apart, we both said that we both had very similar experiences. My
yeah,
school report was Mark's easily led. My school report said that I was always in a daydream. And we talked, didn't we, about, you know, I don't know, and I don't like labeling myself and giving myself a tag, but I don't know that if I grew up with a little bit of dyslexia or something like that, or learning difficulties. I
yeah.
don't really know. All I can remember from my school is just not having an interest, not wanting to be there. It's all right, the teacher saying that I was daydreaming, but I was daydreaming because I was bored shitless. I just didn't want to be there. Is that
Yeah.
is that how you felt?
Yeah, well, I couldn't see the point of what they were doing because why did I need to learn about history? All I wanted to do was go out and play. Why
Yeah.
did I want to learn about, oh, I don't know, Mary Queen of Scots? And all I remember is some king had 6 wives and got a head chopped off. And it was like, I remember random things, but most of the stuff they were trying to feed me was, it would go in one ear and out the other. And the more the teachers told me I was stupid and she could have done better if she just paid attention, or, why can't you listen, or why are you this? I think I spent more time out of the class than I did in it.
Mm.
So I think it was, for me, I just assumed by the time I left school that I wasn't good at anything. I failed all the exams. My dad made me stay on for an extra year, which felt like criminal punishment. But, it was like, you need a qualification, woman. Get in there and do it. And I was like, oh, I know. So I did the extra year. I did get some qualification, but I still came out with a sense of not knowing what it was all about. It wasn't until, oh, sorry.
No, carry on. Carry on. Sorry.
It wasn't until my son was, well, he went into school and he seemed to be struggling, and he was always getting pulled out, and I think I spent more time at school then than he did, because I was always getting called in for this was happening, that was happening, he's tormenting, he's this, he's being disruptive, and I'm like, well, why is he doing it? What's wrong? And they couldn't seem to put it on. They just labelled him as being naughty and said, if this carries on, he's got to be excluded. And I'm like, oh God, okay. So anyway, alarm bells went off in my head. They wouldn't listen to me, so I changed schools. And through there, I met a wonderful teacher called Mrs. Delamere, her headmistress. And she just said, I know what's going on with your son. She said, I think he's got ADHD. I think he's struggling to remember things in sequences from what I've watched, observed. And she said, I would go and get him analysed. And I'm like, oh God, are we talking mental health here? And she said, no, go and find a child psychologist. She gave me a number and name. And she went off, or I went off, and spoke to this guy, and he gave Jamie this list, or well, what Jamie said was a book of questions. And he was, bear in mind, he was only like 5 years old, bless him. And anyway, cut long story short, when I came back, I went off for an hour and left him with Jamie. When I come back, he described me to a T. The short-term memory loss, sequential learning, so you can't remember things in a sequence. Give me something like, that's one fact, that's one fact, and that's one fact, or 3 things in a sequence to learn. And I can remember a bit of it, but I couldn't remember all of it, or I couldn't put it together. So if I was trying to learn like on a screen, like on the blackboard, for example, and then interpret what they've said, and then put it in writing, oh my God, where the hell do I start? And everything, oh, sorry.
No, carry on. I'm good at interrupting people. I thought you'd finish. Carry on.
Sorry. When you get to my age, your brain has to stop and think a bit. It's like, okay.
I know.
But
I'm the same.
Yeah, but all of the traits that this guy described, with the like attention loss and the short memory and not being interested in things, but your mind is so busy, but not focused on one thing at a time, that was the ADHD, which wasn't in my years. There was just, you're in the remedial class, you're in the naughty class, or you're in a good class. And suddenly I started to understand myself. And that, you know, for all the money I paid for this thing for my son, I actually got an understanding of me. And it was like someone switched the light bulb on. And I was like, seriously? Why didn't anyone ever tell me this?
Do you think, though, as a society, we're good at labeling people, that we just like to give people a label for the sake of it?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was so grateful to Mrs. Delamere because she said to me, I don't want to put him through that system, labeling him as ADHD. She said, I can see the traits of it. She said, I've done a little test with him. She said, and I can see all the traits there, but I don't want to put him through that system because I think he's a really bright lad. She said, I think he just needs someone to take him under his wing and talk to him in a different way. So talk to him about in pictures and talk about feelings and how does he feel about that. And basically, it was like someone switched a switch and he suddenly became interested in learning. He wanted to be in school. He wanted to play with people instead of winding them up to a point of annoying them. And
I know last year I was suffering a little bit with depression, and I knew that I was depressed, but I had to go and see a doctor and get that doctor to tell me that I was depressed. Now, incidentally, the doctor didn't say that I was depressed. He called it something else, and I can't remember what that was. But it's funny, you know, deep down inside when you're not right, you know, when there's something not right in your body and you're feeling like crap. But I had to go to that doctor and I had to try and get them to give me, you know, a tag, a name, a label. It's weird, isn't it? 2020, how we've got to go and get that label, that tag.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at the labels, and that's something I want to talk about, you know, maybe towards the end of the show or whenever, is I didn't want Jamie to be labelled with that because I know if you give someone a label, that limits then their potential, what they believe about themselves.
Right.
So you know, from the work I do, and I've worked with hundreds of children over the years, is like if you say you're ADHD, that's what the parents start expecting of them. So they start looking at the traits of the ADHD, and if they've been naughty or rebellious or something, it's like they go, "Oh, I see he's ADHD," and I'm like, "Seriously?" You know, and I started recognizing this, so I didn't put Jamie through the label system. I learned with you know, listening to what he was saying and watching his behaviour. I started working with the Bach remedies, which I was already a practitioner for that. So that, you know, was something naturally to help him. And what I found is over the years, a lot of people, I don't want to be judgmental because I know some brilliant teachers out there and I'm sure they have to work to some system, don't they? But if you give someone a label, they start thinking that's who they are.
Yeah.
So they start judging themselves and thinking of themselves in that label. So if you say you're really naughty or you're really annoying or you're an idiot, they start believing that. If they start saying you're ADHD, not only do they start looking at that as who they are, they start reacting and responding accordingly.
Yeah, I'm with you. Totally agree, 100%.
Yeah.
So going back to when you was in school then, so school, you didn't want to go to school, you didn't find it interesting at all, but growing up as a child, what turned you on? What sort of thing was you interested in as a child growing up then? There must have been something that interested you.
Well, from a very young age, my mum said I was always bringing home friends who were unhappy. She said, I don't know what it was. She said, what she used to call waifs and strays. She said, you always bring home these waifs and strays who had half the weight on their shoulders. She said, and you get friends with them and you know, bring them in under your wing, she said, and then they'd abandon you and you'd get really upset. And I could not understand why that happened. And yet I seemed to be really drawn to people who got a problem. So if someone was upset, I would seem to gravitate towards them. If someone was struggling or was getting told off, I would seem to be there trying to make that right for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And at home, I probably didn't have a lot of interest because I was the oldest of 4, or 3 at the time, and then 4. And so I think I kind of fitted in a mother role from a young age.
Right, yeah.
So there was 2 youngsters. My mum always worked, and then another little baby come along. And so I think I became mum at a very young age.
Right.
And so, you know, I didn't remember much of childhood. Well, apart from bits I don't want to talk about yet. I said, when someone passes over, we'll talk about that. I better write it down because if not, my legacy, I'm going to be too old to enjoy it. Okay. But, you know, it's like, I think... Go on then, go for it.
One thing I was going to ask you, because a friend of mine, Harmony, and somebody that you know as well, she wanted me to bring up music because this podcast has gone down a little bit of a music route as well. At half time now, we always play a song and I try to promote, you know, an artist and stuff like that. And she wanted me to bring up talking a little bit more about music in the podcast. And I'm totally loving that. We're going to do some episodes coming up in the near future where I'm going to be talking about different decades of music and different bands and stuff like that. Now, you said you grew up in the 60s. So what sort of music did you used to listen to? Can you remember what the first sort of music that you was interested in?
Well, I think the first one I remember is Summer Holidays and the Beatles. We had our video club at school. So that was the one thing I do remember that we did have after school. So it's good you remember that, because I've forgotten I even enjoyed a bit of it. Okay. And I did like making a dress. I did remember making a dress. But anyway, come back to the music. I think Summer Holidays, the Beatles was kind of lift singing, and was my spirit lifter. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'd find myself singing for no apparent reason. And I was like, okay, I love that. And Cliff Richard. I grew up with Cliff Richard because he was exactly the same age as my mum. They had the same birthday.
Did everybody in the 60s used to like the Beatles? Because it's funny, because when, you said that you grew up in the 60s, listening to 60s music and stuff, I thought, right, and a few people asked me, what sort of bands from the 60s did I used to like?
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the Beatles. I love the Beatles because I grew up in the 90s listening to Oasis. And if you're an Oasis fan, you're a Beatles fan. But I didn't want to say the Beatles as much as I love the Beatles. I didn't want to say the Beatles because I wanted to look a little bit deeper into what I liked. And I liked the bands like The Who, The Kinks, and The Doors. And, The Who, Pete Townsend, the lead guitarist, my dad used to manage a pub in Twickenham called The Fox. And Pete Townsend used to come in all the time and sit down and have a drink with my dad and stuff like that. So that was really, really interesting. So I kind of found myself drawn to The Who anyway and picked up on the music. But, whenever you go back to the 60s now and talk about the 60s, everybody always brings up the Beatles. Do you think that the 60s, and that was a year where everybody was just talking about the Beatles? Was there anybody at all that didn't like the Beatles?
Well, I don't know anybody. And I did work as a radio presenter for a while, and that was one of the most popular ones that was asked for, Summer Holiday.
Let's talk a little bit about that then. Let's talk a little bit about being a radio presenter. How did you get involved in that? That's interesting.
Well, because I work at Divine Time, doing natural therapies and Reiki. So a lady came in, and she was a friend of the lady who owns Carol Reeve, who owns the Divine Time. And she asked if we'd be interested in helping people with cancer. And they were going to do an open day where people with cancer could come in and we could do complementary therapies.
Right.
Anyway, this went on for 3 or 4 sessions, and we got really into it. We went into the hospital and was able to help and give support to people. And it was... to me, it felt like a natural progression that she actually needed to promote this. So I said to her, well, why don't we go down to our local radio show and talk to them about what you're doing? And she's like, no, I can't do that. I can't talk on radio. But I'd already done it once. So that was my claim to fame. I'd done one radio show. And anyway, cut a long story short, Karen said to me, I don't want to do that, Dawn. I said, well, I'm going. If you're not going, that's fine with me. And I started walking down the road. 2 minutes later, she's running behind me. So we kind of invited ourselves into a radio chat show. And anyway, we did that. We did it a couple of times. And then I said to the guy who ran the station, I want to do this on a regular basis because I think I've got an important message out there where people can help themselves. And I can reach people who I'd never get to meet. And he said, all right, then come in and talk to me. He said next week. So I went in, chatted with him. And I thought I was going to just do a chat like I'm talking to you. And he sat me in front of the panel and said, well, get on with it then. And I'm like, no.
Well, you always get on with it.
And I was a technology phobic. That was like, seriously not. So it did take me a while, but I was very fortunate because a couple of people stepped in and were very patient with me and taught me ABC and how to do it. I think, struggled with getting my voice out there because I talk very quietly. But it's okay. I enjoyed it and I had some really good feedback. And I felt like it was a privilege to do that because you could reach people that you'd never touch.
Yeah, yeah. How long did you do it for then?
About 16 months. Yeah, about 16 months.
Good. So why did you give it up?
Oh, where's this going? I'm just wondering where this is going to go. Okay, let's just say the boss and I had a difference of opinion.
You generally find that does happen in radio stations, basically. It can go two way. The presenter can either think that they're too big for the station, or the owner of the station doesn't think that you're going in the right direction. And it goes all different ways. But I was the same. I'd done
Yeah.
community radio for 2 years, for over two stations.
Yeah.
And I was working for a station in Plymouth for about a year, and it just didn't seem that it was going down the right route. That I didn't feel like people were listening to me. I felt that possibly looking back on it, I felt that I was too big for the station, which is, a bit silly really. But I decided to part ways with that station, went to another station here in Cornwall, and just didn't see that there was any direction. And I decided that I was going to do it at home. Never did actually do it from home. I got straight in board on podcasting. But do you think that it's something that you could get interested in the future?
What, podcasting?
Podcasting. Well, you've already said to me that it's something you want to go down, and we'll talk about that later. But community radio, is there something that do you see a future in that? You've done it before. Why not again?
Well, I think I will go back. I think I just need to mend a few bridges.
Yeah.
And I am forgiving. I understand why it all went a bit pear-shaped, and I understand that maybe I could have dealt with it differently. And I did regret leaving.
Right.
But the bottom line is sometimes you have to have principles and you have to have boundaries where you're not going past that line.
Totally.
The only thing that really saddened me, I think, is the fact that I knew that I was reaching people that would never have got that help anywhere else. And hang on, lose me a plug. Okay. Okay. Also, the feedback I got after I'd left of how people have missed what I did has made me rethink the fact that I do need to go and do it again.
Right. Okay.
Because it's the combination of music and the fact that I was helping people with emotional support as well. It felt like a real sense of purpose.
So, what was your day job then, Dawn? While this was all going on, what was it you doing during the day?
Mostly, I was writing books. And I do therapy, so I work as a medium. I work with the Bach flower remedies, and I work with Reiki healing. So
I'm really interested about that, to be honest with you, because it's funny, really, because I've always been a very spiritual person. I've always thought that I've seen things, but not trusted my intuition, and I've seen a few things in the past and just put it to one side, as in, like, okay, yeah, I'll just imagine my daydreaming sort of thing, like, and I got into going to see a medium, and I got into seeing this guy about 15-20 years ago, and I just felt that I was being taken down the wrong path. It was getting a bit too heavy for me. And one of the things he said to me was that, Mark, I don't think that it's right for you at the moment. I think that later on down the line, you will come back into this sort of stuff when you feel right. And I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, you've put me off now, mate. That's it, end of. Now, I've got into it in the last year or so. I'm in a paranormal investigation group here in Plymouth, and we go on a few investigations. And I just like to go as the medium person, to be honest with you, the person that goes there, that tries to debunk things. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that I'm a little bit wary of. There's a few things that go on that I can't explain. So my role that I feel in this group is to basically look at everything that's going on and try and draw my own conclusion and make my own decision whether it's right or wrong. So I've gradually got back into things, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So how did you get involved in your spirituality then? When did this start?
Oh God, really good question. I think from a young age, I used to see things which I couldn't explain, and I used to get really strange sensations, like in my hands. And Mum said I used to wake up in the night screaming because I had this big ball in my hand, and I used to hold it so tight I was frightened that it was going to explode all over me, and that was a fear. And this went on for years. If I'd have known back then this was the healing energy, which basically would have helped me at the time, I probably would have had a completely different life, and I would have probably gone down that road, but no one ever explained it to me. And I think I used to see things and have thoughts about things, and that's all I can call them, as thoughts. And everyone used to say they were random thoughts. I was a fantasizer and be real, or don't tell fibs or things like that. But I was seeing things which basically then happened.
Really?
And I used to have this feeling about somebody. So, like, if I was out with somebody and I'd see their mum, and I'd say, I think she's going to have a baby, or like, is her nanny unwell or something? And people would look at me and say, what's wrong with you, child? That you're like 7 years old? And almost like everything got brushed under the carpet. But anyway, cut a long story short, a very long story short, many years later, I ended up going to a fair, a healing fair, quite randomly. I was out shopping one day with my son. I had £10 in my pocket, and I don't know why, but I ended up from Brundall in Acle. I was in Acle, where I lived, and I ended up in Brundall, which was like 8 miles away. And I don't to this day know why I even went there. But I still had this £10 in my hand, my son by my side, and there was this sign which said mind, body, spirit thing, and it was almost like my car was on automatic pilot. I ended up in this village hall, and there was all these people in there doing all these wonderful things. It smelled gorgeous, and there was lots of pretty crystals and stones and jewellery and stuff. And I was drawn to these little bottles. They're really coloured bottles. In fact, I should have brought some with me now. But these coloured bottles were, it's almost like a magnet pulling me towards it. And it said it cost £10 to find out what these bottles are about. And I'm like, I don't know. It's almost like irrational behaviour went out the window. And my son was crazing for anything and everything that was on the shelves, on the tables. And I was like, no, I've only got £10. That's for my dinner. So no. And then this woman just said something to me. She said something about my childhood and something that happened when I was a teenager. I'd never told a single soul in the world. And they weren't pleasant memories, but I thought, she didn't know me. I had never met this woman from Adam. And she told me something that had happened. And she told me the exact details and why I didn't do anything about it. And I'm like, oh my God.
Did you, I mean, because the thing is, a lot of people, when you talk about mediums, a lot of people are very negative to people that are mediums. They say that they try to drag information out of you to get the answers that you want.
Yeah.
Do you experience that at all? Do you get a lot of people that say that it's all a load of rubbish and that that the people, like, how can I explain it? Do you see where I'm coming from? A lot of people think that mediums are people that are just, very skeptical. Do you find that people that go down that route with you?
I've only had 2 people do that. The first time I did a mind, body, spirit fair, some woman came up and said, I've heard about all this before and it doesn't work. And I said, okay, because I've got a special way of working with remedies and tuning into people. And she said, it will never work on me. Anyway, so I made her a little bottle of remedies up. She went off and called me a month later and said, I really have to talk to you. And about a year ago, some guy come in and I wouldn't tell him what he wanted to hear. He wanted me to say, everything's going to be fine. This woman's come back into his life. You can make it right. And I can't tell him something that's not true because that's not what I'm being given. And he just said, this is a load of, well, I can't repeat the words on here, but it's like, he went off saying, I've heard about people like you before. And he just didn't want to know. And I just thought, okay, that's your journey, mate. And I said, but just watch this space. I said, because it's not happening.
So he was trying to put something in your head to say then, was he? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He seemed to think that I had some power.
Because you wouldn't say it. He was getting teasy with you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was like, imitating, I think that's the word. Okay. But anyway, I think the right people are drawn to the right mediums. And maybe there's some people out there who aren't totally genuine. I think maybe a lot of people do it, but they still doubt themselves. And I've done it, where I was saying, I'll give someone some information and I go, I hope that was all right. And I go, yep, spot on. And, it's normally by the people's reaction, you can tell if you're on cue or not. And I always say to someone, if I'm doing a reading for them and I go off track or you don't understand or it doesn't resonate with you, please stop me right there and then. I'm not here to go off on a waffle. I want to get to the heart of what's going on in your life and help you understand maybe what's gone wrong, maybe where you can turn it around and look at some techniques that you can actually go forward with and also help you to connect with your loved ones. Because that is such a connection.
Tell me about these remedies that you're going on about then. I mean, what's that all about? You're going to have to break that down a little bit more, to be honest with you, because I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Is this Bach? Is it Bach flower? Is that what it's called?
Yep. Can you see my box?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting lost in the background. I should have put my paintings up. Okay. But anyway, there's 38 different bottles, and these are natural flower remedies. Okay. And actually, if I tell you a little bit about how I got into them first, because that would help you understand a little bit. I spent most of my childhood being nervous, withdrawn. I was always suffering with water problems, stomach problems, sore throats, tonsillitis. Anything that was going, seemed to have it. And I just thought I was a sickly child. But anyway, cut a long story short, when I was had my daughter, and she wasn't very happy within herself, she handed me a bottle of rescue remedy, which is one of these small bottles.
I've heard of this.
Yeah.
I've heard of this because when I was doing my driving test, when I could never chill out. I was always stressed like crazy. So somebody gave me this remedies to put in the bath and have it in the bath. And I'll tell you what, I was probably like not spaced out, but I passed my test first time. Let's put it that way.
Brilliant. Well done, love. Okay. And these actually are remedies of which you take. These ones you can take. So you take them internally. where homeopathy is something you put in the bath or on your skin. So what Dr. Bach said, when there's a void between your thinking and who you should be, is when dis-ease sets in. Right? So most of us go through life, and I used to say, oh, I'm just depressed, I'm just fed up. I didn't say depressed because I didn't know I was depressed. I just said, I'm fed up, or I've got panic attacks, I've got this, I've got that. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm worried. And what I found out through the remedies and working, with natural healing and things like that, is the more we say things, the more emotionally attached we are affected by that.
Right.
So on a simplified version, I'll come back to this in a sec. I'm just aware I've got to chuck them on the floor because I took with my hands. Okay. On a simplified version, if every thought you have, triggers a reaction in a part of the brain, which then brings in a neurological response in your body, what are you saying to yourself that is making you feel the way you do today? So can I repeat something that you said to me a couple of times this week?
Of course you can. Go for it.
Because obviously you better than I do. Okay. You said to me.
I hope so.
Oh, just at the moment. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a couple of times you said to me in your message, I'm just lazy and blah, blah, blah. I didn't do something. And I'm thinking, why would you say that? You get up at 5 o'clock every morning. You go out there delivering, posting, whatever you're doing. Yeah. Most people can't even think about getting out of bed at that time of day. How can you describe yourself as that? But it's not just about the words you say, it's what you keep putting out there that you believe comes to be true.
100%. When I say I'm lazy, that's just a word that I use. I'm not lazy at all. I just like my own. I like my me time. I like a bit of space. So when I go to work and I've had a hard day, right, I like to just sit down and just relax. Now, people do meditation, and you are one that does meditation, I do believe. But my meditation is just to sit there by myself, right?
Yeah.
Don't watch the television. I don't put it on. I just sit there in a room by myself and just chill. And that is when I say I can go for an hour or two in that state, in my inner self. And, then Nikki will come home and she'll say, what have you been doing today? Well, I've just, I've been doing this, I've been doing, and I tend to begin to lie about it because I'm a little bit embarrassed that I'm just not doing anything. But it's just my way of re-centralizing myself, grounding myself, and just getting my energy back, just sitting there doing nothing and again, daydreaming, I suppose.
Yeah. So instead of saying I'm being lazy, just say I'm recharging my batteries.
I like that. I'll see what she says when she comes home and I haven't done the housework and she tells me off. I should just say, well, Dawn said, right, I'm recharging my batteries. Okay. She'll be saying, who the frickin' hell's this Dawn?
That's not the first time someone said that. Okay. But if I give you a little understanding of that, right? If you say you're recharging your batteries, your mind goes with that and it starts to feel uplifted because you're doing something for you. If you're saying you're feeling lazy, basically it goes with that thing of start. It's almost like someone stand behind you with a stick going, bad boy.
Yeah.
And then you produce the cortisol and the adrenaline, which keeps you in that, oh dear, I'm in the wrong space.
I've tried doing meditation, but the meditation that they say on the videos, on the films, I've tried. I just can't do it. This is the way I meditate. It is just literally grounding myself and just having some me time. I've tried sitting there. I've tried listening to music. I've tried closing my eyes and just taking deep breaths and stuff. But for me, that takes too much concentration. And that's not what meditating's about, is it? Meditation's about just letting yourself go and just flowing with things.
Yeah.
For
me, when I say to people, I say, we're going to do a little bit of meditation, but let's take that word out of it. Let's just breathe. Just breathe. Think of something in your mind that's bugging you or getting on your nerves or whatever. You're stronger language than that sometimes, because obviously I know what the person's story is. So think of that thing that's getting on your nerves. I said, and just breathe into it. Breathe it right into your belly and blow it out. Just breathe it and blow it out. And the act of doing something for you starts to produce the oxytocin, which actually calms down the levels. And I said, now think about something. Come on, go into it, feel it. Feel what you're thinking. Think about what you're thinking and breathe into that. How does it feel? Where is it sitting in your belly? Where is it sitting in your body? So they'll say there or wherever it be. And I said, now breathe into that and let's spit it out and scream it out or whatever. And it's not, for me, meditating isn't always about being quiet. It's about going in, acknowledging it's there, and let's be loving it and send it out. So if you voice it out, you can sing it out, you can scream it out, swear it out if you need to. But then you can go into a quiet space where you go, now I can relax. So just breathing. For me, I tend to focus on the breath rather than meditating, because I think I have this image of the Buddha sitting there with his little legs crossed, and I can't even do that. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Meditation spun me out a little bit, I must admit. Going back 10, 15 years, I used to come home, and I'm not one of these people that sits up to meditate. I was always a lazy meditator. I'd like to lay on my bed and just chill out. And I can remember one year, one day I put a candle each side of the bed, and I just laid there and closed my eyes and done the breathing routines. Closed my eyes and just breathed. And all of a sudden I felt something grab me on the arm. Right, and that was it. Never done it again. It scared the living crap out of me. And, something literally grabbed me by the hand. And that was it. Never done it since. But I used to use meditation quite a bit. I went to Egypt in 2020. No, I didn't. I went into Egypt in the year 2000. And while I was over there, I got a bit of a stomach bug, come back, and basically I had a bad stomach for about 6 months. I went to the doctors. The doctor said, gave me tests for cancer and all this sort of stuff. It all came back negative. And cut a long story short, after about a year and a half, they diagnosed me with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Now, to me, that's a cop out, because IBS means that something is irritating your bowel. So when they say you've got IBS, they're not telling you that there's something the matter with you. They're just telling you that something somewhere is irritating your bowel. So I'd done a diary, a food diary, and I worked out myself what it was that was giving me bad stomach. But something else that I'd done with that as well was I used to use meditation, and I used to close my eyes, and when I had a bad stomach, I could feel that horrible knot and pain in my stomach, and I would close my eyes, and I would imagine that as like a dark I don't know, powder or shadow, and I would suck it out and I'd breathe it out my mouth, and I could literally, my eyes closed, see it going out. And after about 5 minutes, it would go. It would totally go, and it was amazing, totally amazing. I've never used it since meditation, and I should. I really should, but for some reason I don't. I'm lazy. Well, I'm not lazy, but you know where I'm coming from.
Maybe it's just not the priority.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, but if you, I love your coffee cup. Yeah, but if you're thinking about it, right, meditation. Oh my God, I'm trying to put it in the simplest words without everyone going, "Oh my God, that's a lot of information." It's basically just bringing you back to your natural self, because our mind is busy all day long. And if you're having just one thought, say we're talking about the lazy thought, you imagine how many thoughts you have in a day, and every one of those has a neurological response. So it takes your body into some sort of a response. Some good, some bad, some hyper, some peed off with the whales. Yeah. If you keep on that space, or keep in that mindset, and you feel that within your body, how on earth does your body cope? Let's keep like running your car, putting in bad petrol and putting in rubbish oil and all of that junk. All of those thoughts become digested in your body somewhere. So for me, meditation is just a way of detoxing some of this. And when you said about irritable bowels, it's often about anger, it's about frustration, it's about fear, lots of fear, not knowing yourself, and that sits in your stomach. So irritable bowels is one of the things that led me into the remedies. When I actually look back at how much anger I was holding towards my childhood, towards my teachers, towards people who'd upset me, people who abused me, I think, I'm surprised I didn't combust.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tend to come outwardly. For someone who's quiet, it will go inwardly, and then it sits in the body. And for me, meditation is something where you can go in, and like you said, you can give it a color or a space or whatever description you call it. I would take it in and give it color and love it and say, thank you for showing me what I need to look at. Let's go in, let's heal it, send that love in there, and let's work it out together.
So how many times a day should you meditate, and what is the ideal duration for meditating? How long are you supposed to meditate for?
We're all different. You can't generalize, because for someone, if I said to them, you need an hour's meditation a day, they would go like, seriously? I've got enough to do. You know, if you can practice like deeper breathing for 5 minutes in the morning before you can get to bed, like with gratitude. So 5 minutes in the morning of thinking of something that you're really grateful for. So you, for example, you've got to show up today. So well done me. Thank you. And I'm a blessing. And my bed and my quilt and my family and the roof over my head. 5 minutes just breathing in that gratitude. And that's a form of meditation.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And, you know, maybe during the day, just 3 or 4 times a day, just take a deep breath in and go, and I've got something here which I was going to show you. Okay. And that's crystals, because I love working with crystals. I don't know if you can see that.
And then what an awesome name as well, Chrystal. It's all...
I was destined to work with crystals when I... Okay.
Yes, you was. Tell me a little bit about crystals then, because I've only used crystals when I'm in this paranormal investigation group. Hold on, I'm going to cough. And we use crystals for dowsing and stuff like that, for asking spirit stuff. That works a treat for me. Using dowsing rods and stuff like that doesn't work at all. Crystals, asking spirit questions and having it go and working out a direction for yes and for no and asking questions really does work for me. One thing that does baffle me, right, is how do you select your right crystal? Because you can go on Amazon and you can see any crystal, hundreds of crystals everywhere. How do you pick which is the right crystal for you?
Well, I think the crystals call you. So if I was flicking through a book and I'd open a page, that's the crystal I need today. That's a bit like going to the supermarket and I'm hungry. What food is calling you today?
Right.
If you keep it that simple, and don't complicate it. I always say to people, if they're saying to me, what sort of crystal do I need? I'd say, what color comes to your mind? Okay, so think about color. So say orange for the moment because we've got orange. Okay, so orange is a crystal that you need. And I'd say just scan over these crystals, because we've got some in the shop where I work, as which one is calling you. And then pick the crystal up, hold it in your hand, and then read about it. So you're trusting your inner self, your higher self.
So that crystal that you've got in your hand now then, right?
Yeah.
How did you come across that one? Was that one that you bought, or was it one that you came across? And did you when you find this crystal, so that crystal you've got in your hand, do you have to do anything to make that crystal yours?
Well, for me, I just hold them. So I think any crystal is an energy. Yeah. Each crystal has got healing properties. Okay. And basically you attract towards you, or you are drawn towards whatever crystal your body needs right now. Okay? And there's a lot more complex ways of using them, but for me, simple is easy to get. So if I'm drawn towards this, I'd hold it in my hand and I'd feel where it needs to go in my body. So at the moment, I want to hold it here. So maybe something I need to talk about. I'm angry because this is about anger. It's also about detoxing. It's about letting go. I'd hold it there and I'd imagine that crystal and feel the energy of the crystal going into my body. And basically it helps to release and replenish the energies in there.
Right. So that crystal then, you're putting your energy into that crystal. Can that crystal then take any negative energy from around? Can it do that? Is there anything you have to do to get rid of that negative energy in your crystal?
Wash it.
Wash it. Yeah. Quite simple.
Yeah. You can wash it. You can put it in the sunlight. You can put it in the moonlight. Or you can put sage with it. You can use crystal bells. Or, just cleanse them. Some crystals don't need cleaning. But for most of them, if I use this, say I was really angry today, and I want to swear at someone and curse them and tell them what I need to say, I would hold that for a little while. And what I'm doing when I'm holding it in my hand, I'm triggering sensors in my meridians. So each of your fingers is a different meridian in your body. So first of all, I'm holding it in my hand. So I don't know where I want to put it. And I'm just connecting with that energy. And to me, it's like connecting a circuit. It's like when you put two batteries together. And that connection then triggers off all neurological responses in your body, which starts the healing process of releasing stuff, feelings, emotions, pain, whatever you want to call it. And then it fills up those voids.
Wow, that's amazing.
I love it. And I love carnelian. It's beautiful.
So where did you get that one from then?
I probably picked it up from a healing fair when I was out somewhere. I used to do a lot of healing fairs when we could.
Yeah.
And, I always, at the beginning, when I started doing the healing fairs, I'd always come home with presents for the kids. Because, that's what you do as a mum, innit? And then I started thinking, well, actually, I'm putting all this work in, and what am I getting for me? So every fair I used to go to, I used to buy a crystal. And that crystal, when I went home and read about it, was always exactly what I needed. And that's one of the things I specialize in, is helping people to trust in their intuition. Because, we can all be guided from outside. And like with the situation that's going on in the world at the moment, there's so much outside going on. But if we can actually take back our own power in one aspect, even if it's just holding this and feeling that connection with it and breathing it into your body, you feel more empowered. So you don't feel so disengaged with yourself. You don't feel so caught up in all the frustration and the confusion. The more you can empower yourself, trust in your higher self, your feelings, the safer you feel.
So what other tools do you use as well as crystals then?
Okay, should we come back to the remedies then? Because I skipped them, didn't I?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
This is down to you, Dawn. You take me in any route you want me to. I'm loving this.
Okay, so each of these flower remedies, and there's 2 boxes, I can't obviously hold them both together. Each of these is a different state of mind or a different emotion. And as we said earlier, when there's a void, Dr. Bach's discovery was, when there's a void between your thinking and who you should be, is when dis-ease sets in. Okay, so he didn't call it disease, it's dis-ease. So when your body is ill at ease with itself and the thoughts that you're putting into it and the neurological responses that you're causing, is when you become emotionally unwell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a lady called Anita Manjani?
Nope. Not yet.
Look her up. She's an Indian lady, Anita Manjani. She's called. I'll drop you the link afterwards. She became ill with cancer, and basically she was riddled with cancer. And cut a long story short, she believed she got to a stage where she was in a coma and she was basically dying. And she had this out of body experience. She saw some light, and quite simply, she chose to stay on this earth plane rather than to pass.
Yeah.
And her dad came to her while she was in a coma, and he had passed, and he says, right, Anita, now is your time. You've got to decide to come with me or to go back with your loved ones. And Anita was just like, well, she said, but if I go back on the earth, if I go back and stay alive, I'm going to have all of these pains, and I'm going to, I'm going to be in such pain. And he goes, no, you won't. If you go, you'll be free of your cancer and everything. And she had loads of lesions all over her body where the cancer was just trying to escape as quickly as it possibly could. And she was really, really ill. And she came out of this coma, and within 2 weeks, she was totally cancer free. And that was basically her just discovering in herself not to worry anymore. She was worrying so much that she was making herself ill.
Yeah, I really get that. I think one of the first books I ever, read on the spiritual journey was Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And in the back of her book, she had cancer and was told it was terminal. And she knew about the power of the mind, and she started investigating more and about the vibrations and good food and things like that. What you feed your body, basically you become. Okay. And so anyway, she started working on herself. And when she went back and they went to do whatever they did, the operation, they couldn't find the cancer. And to me, everything I looked at in that book, she's got a dictionary at the back of it, and it's worth checking out. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. In the back of the book, there's a dictionary of every ailment in the body. And beside it is psychological reason. And beside that, an affirmation that you can use. And every ailment I had, with the water problems, the diverticulitis, the irritable bowels, the panic attacks, the slip disc, all that stuff, every one of those ailments I could recognize as me. And the thoughts that she put with these was like, oh my God, it made me stop and think. It's like, Jesus, if I'm actually doing this to myself, then I'll make myself ill. And that was, for me, it's a wake-up call, because I had 2 kids. I didn't want to be ill. I didn't want anyone else to have my children. I nearly ended up in mental hospitals. That's how I got into this. But it's like, any mum, nobody wants them to pass off their children to someone else and not see them grow up, do they?
No.
That's your nightmare.
Yeah.
So
carry on, Dawn. I'm keep interrupting you.
Go on. You tell. What were you going to say?
All I was going to say was, I'm open to everything in life. I'm open to give everything a chance. What would you say to people then that say that what you're taking there, what you're using, right, is a placebo effect? You're believing in something. Somebody could have sold you anything, anywhere there. It's a placebo effect. What would you say to people that say that to you?
I would say try it. Because for me, when I first started taking the remedies, I didn't understand. I have no idea what they meant. I just met this lady who genuinely seemed to want to help me. And by working with the remedy, she was doing this little thing with a pendulum, like you were talking about. So she got a pendulum and she was going like this. And then she's got my arm and she said, hold your arm. She said, and I've got to press on there and you need to hold it. And she was doing this funny thing with my arm and giving me a bottle to hold in my hand. And anyway, I was holding this bottle in one hand and she pressed on my arm and I'm thinking, she made that hard. That was hard. Oh, ouch, that hurt. Anyway, cut a long story short, she didn't tell me what she was doing or anything. She didn't even describe what the bottles were about. But she gave me a mixture of bottle and she said, go home and take this. She said, and that will help you to be more confident in yourself. And that's all she said.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. And what she described to me is like, there's no need for you to feel guilty. You're not a bad mum, Dawn. A lot of mums feel like this. You know, you are a good person. And anyway, she told me some things about myself. And I was like, I've never heard anyone talking about positive and good things about me. I don't think anyone had ever told me something pleasant about me. I'm sure somewhere along the road, my ex had told me that he loved me. Otherwise, I'm sure that was somewhere in there. I couldn't remember it. Okay. But, you know, what she described in me was my potential of who I could be, not all the bad things that I believed about myself. And anyway, I went home and took this bottle. And I actually, at the time, I was in a really bad place because my daughter was just starting school. She was in a really not happy space. And the teacher snatched her off her and said, oh, go home. She said, that's no wonder your daughter's a nervous wreck. She said, look at you. She said, you're causing this. And I'm like, oh. So I had a meltdown there and then. And that's when I turned back to these or went to these.
Mm.
Medication, been there, done that 25 times. The doctor gave me more. And I thought, no, I don't want to go down that road anymore. There's something going on I don't understand. And what she gave me in that bottle, I start taking. So you take it, you take the drops out of the bottle. I'll just show you a bit of that. Really simple. It's all water and a tiny drop of brandy and a flower essence. And my problem, I thought, was my daughter wasn't sleeping. My daughter was unhappy. My daughter was ill. My daughter was nervous. My daughter was this, always crying. I started taking the remedies for myself, and my daughter started sleeping through the night. My daughter stopped crying so much. She stopped being so clingy to me. She actually settled into school and turned out to be a really A student. And I'm like, how could that happen? That I was healing myself and she was actually getting better. That didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand at the time. But I did learn afterwards, like with the healing and through the remedies, that as the mother feels, the child often reflects outside.
Yeah.
And, you know...
And you're always going to get these people that try trolling your beliefs at the end of the day. And I just wanted to say that to you, you know, about the placebo effect, because you always get these people ask these questions. And what I always say to people is, okay, it's a placebo effect. But if it's making me feel good and it's working for me, I don't really give a shit. Let it be a placebo effect. Let it be whatever you want to call it. It's doing me good. I mean, I haven't for the last 3 years, but for about 10, 15 years of my life, I used to smoke cannabis on a regular basis. For me, that done me good because it put me in that special place, that very chilled out mood, that very stress-free mood where I didn't care anymore. Yeah. And at that time in my life, it really, really did good for me. And I just believe whoever you are, if you can get in that special place that makes you feel good, it's only going to be a good thing for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think anyone who dismisses something is just because they don't understand it. I'd say to anybody,
totally.
You know, give it a go, because you don't know what the result will be if you don't try it. You know, and for me, you know, I've got this real passion because I believe that everyone in the world should have a set of these remedies in the house. Now, I know it's not possible, but my mission is to go back to schools and help the children understand that just because you've been labelled, it doesn't mean that's who you are, to help you trust your intuition, to help you go back to yourself and go, who am I really? And that's why, you know, I spent the last 3-4 years, I think, writing books on self-help and really simple things like empty your head, put it on paper, look at it, have a think about it. Is that real? Is it not real? Talk about it. Who caused that? Where's that come from? You know, all this like investigating, which, you know, some people will go, oh, for God's sake, Dawn, that's a load of baloney. But do you know what? If it touches one child in the world, my job is done.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what this show's all about. You know, a lot of people might not, a lot of people might not take shine to it. But what I like, the amount of emails that I get through saying, Mark, I really enjoyed the episode and thank you so much.
Oh, sorry.
At the end of the day,
Sorry.
no, that's cool. We're going to leave this in because I love it when something unusual happens. It's the energy that's we're kicking off, you see.
Barney, he's on the telly. Come up here and have a look. Come have a look. That's why you're getting excited. I'm so sorry. Probably not going to get anything else. Barney, come on, mate. Come on. Good boy. Just give me a minute. I'll just put him outside.
No problem. We'll edit this out in a second. The joys of podcasting. See, I love these little things when these things happen in podcasts because this is what it's all about. People like take these bits out and edit them. No, that's what's supposed to happen. We created that much energy in the room. The dog was barking, and the dog just wanted to let us know that I believe in this stuff as well. Where was we, Dawn? Where was we?
I don't know. I've got no idea. That's funny because I walked out of the room and I've got the earphones in, nearly pulled the toe. Confused. Okay. But no, I would say to anybody is because do you know what we all have? My understanding is we can all start to heal ourselves. We might not be able to take away everything that's going on in our body, but if we can actually do something for ourselves each day that makes us feel better in ourselves, whether it's taking a remedy or getting some healing or picking up a crystal and holding it in your hand, go for it. Because this life is precious, and I nearly lost my life a few times, but it's like it's not until something like that happens you have a wake-up call and you go, no, I want to be here and I want the best quality life. If I have to write another 20 books and get through 20 people in my life, at least I'll have done something useful with it. If my experiences, what I've been through, has got to change someone else's life, then that's okay.
And I hate filling my body with crap in the sense that the amount of times I'll be there with a real stinking headache or I feel really crap, and Nikki says to me, she's Mark, just go and take a tablet. I'm like, I don't like doing it. I have to have a real stinker of a headache or feeling really down in the dumps and crap for me to go and take tablets, because I just think that we're constantly pumping our bodies with stuff. Giving ourselves that label. Oh, I've got the flu. No, you haven't got the flu, because if you had the flu, you would know that you've got the flu. But whenever people's poorly, they've always got to say, oh, I've got a flu, or I've got this, or I've got that. If you just took a bit of time out, sometimes if you feel like utter crap, take a day off work, stuff it, just stay at home, relax, chill out. The next day, I guarantee you will feel 10 times better. And it may not have been anything the matter with you whatsoever, but you just needed that little bit of me time, that time to chill out and just re-ground yourself. Yeah,
and that is such a valuable message. And coming back to what you just said there, Mark, so thank you for saying that. I live with my partner when I met him, he said he's disabled because he's got a crumbling disc problem. And I know he's in pain a lot of the time, but I refuse to let him say he's disabled. He's not disabled. He's got a back that's got a problem. That's just one aspect of him. Yeah. And I think one of the things I've understood with people over the years is when we've got something going on, we label ourselves as that. So whether it's a label someone's given us or an illness that's come about, that's just one part of you. There's a lot of you can still do for yourself to make you feel better.
Definitely. You see all these people that are like, you go on YouTube and see these lorry drivers that cannot walk and they pull themselves up to the lorry on the sticks and stuff. Or you see these kids with no arms and stuff that manage to drag themselves along the floor. Those people are disabled, but they still manage to cope in life. They still manage to say, yes, I have got a problem, but I'm not going to let life get me down. I'm going to carry on. There's a guy I've seen on YouTube. Now, I do Taekwondo, and this guy that does Taekwondo is absolutely amazing. I can't remember what his name is, but he's got little tiny stumps for legs. He's got no arms, and he's a second dan in Taekwondo. He's doing all the patterns. Now, he can't do all the moves that we're doing, but he's doing the little... He's doing it. He's giving it a go. And I've got so much admiration for these people that do amazing things with a disability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, if we can actually strip away the label and go, who am I? And that's the object of my book was to say, or books was to say, come on, who are you? You're not that or that, what someone else has labeled you with. You know, we all get these patterns in our head. In fact, I was working with someone today who basically has become so confused because everyone kept telling me he's stupid. He basically just wanted to take his life. And I'm like, for God's sake, there's nothing wrong with you, mate. You're
Mm.
okay. You know, just because other people say that to you, often what people are saying to you is a reflection of how they feel about themselves. Just stop and think about that. Look at them. What are they putting out there that they believe about themselves? And if you can peel those layers away a little bit by little bit, and I think that's why I love the remedies, because they're natural and they peel away those layers so that you get to a point where you can actually see who you really are. And you can feel it as well. You can
Yeah.
feel this strength growing inside you. You can feel how you're getting more confident. You can feel how you're taking chances. And, you know, if we can get back in touch with who we feel we are, we can turn your life around.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about trusting, like you say, trusting
Yeah.
yourself and
Yeah.
trusting, knowing these feelings that you're getting. Like, you know, I've been talking to
Yeah.
you now, and I could feel a glow over me while I'm talking to you, and I haven't worked out what all of these things are now. But I know a lot of the
Yeah.
time it's a good thing, and it's
Yeah.
knowing how to channel that energy.
Yeah.
Everybody goes on about energy, and I'm a big advocate in there's energy everywhere all around us, and it's knowing how to use that energy.
Yeah.
I've been to Glastonbury Music Festival, I've been to the Stone Circle, I've been to these places where hippies have been going for you know, well, not hundreds of years, but for years and years and
Yeah.
years, and they've been sitting in this stone circle and they've been getting high on life and stuff like that. And you know, it's not rubbish. People have been doing this for a reason for
I
years,
know.
and it's
Yeah.
trusting the system and just basically respecting that what's going on and trusting in yourself and what you believe, and
Yeah.
it's only
Yeah.
going to help. Only going to
Yeah.
help.
It is, and it's what you're drawn to. I would say, you know, look, like I read Louise Hay's book, and then I read that book, and everything that comes to you, whether it's a person or a book or a crystal, is exactly what you need right now. Trust in that. Listen to what your gut feeling is telling you. If it feels good, go with it. If it feels bad, then reject it for now. Maybe it's something for later, you know, later in the day. But, you know,
Awesome.
what I would love to do somewhere down the road is podcasts where we maybe pick a subject, like it could be mental illness, or it could be depression, or it could be not sleeping. Someone's I've got to sort the dog out. Okay. It's, not, it's you know, where we could just invite people to send in what they're concerned about, and maybe we could look at some techniques where we can go, well, this is something you could use that will calm your mind. This is something you could explore. This is something to help you understand. This is maybe something you could use. Because I think there's so many people out there right now who've become so confused. Where do they start? Nobody doesn't know. And that's his word. Barney, stop it, please. Good boy. We're recording this, Jamie. It's now gone out to the world, love you.
I That's totally awesome, and I could sit here and talk to you for hours about this, Dawn. I really
Yeah.
could. But like I said, we are limited for time. Both of us. You're going to have to come on and have another chat with us again. So what I want to do is I want to move on a little bit from that. I want to quickly ask you about your book. I want to talk to you about your book, or your books, should I say? Where can we find your books at the moment? You know, how can we get hold of these books?
Okay. Well, at the moment, I've only got one that's published, and it's called Divine Intervention. So it's like a step-by-step journey to find your spirituality and how to look after yourself when working through it. Because I always believe you should feel safe, and that's available through Amazon and through my website, which is
Cool.
dawncrystal.com. The other two are with the publishers. A little bit slow, but they're coming. They will
Awesome.
be ready. I'm hoping by the end of this year they will be ready for people.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to check out
Yeah.
that book myself. Moving on from that, we were talking about podcasts now, and I mean, you was talking to me last week about setting up your own podcast, or
Yeah.
talking about it. What route are you going down with that then? What ideas have you got about setting up a podcast?
Okay. Well, at the moment, I've been talking to people, and I've done like 5 that have gone pear-shaped. If that makes sense. I think I did one the other day. Oh no, I won't go down that road. But anyway, at the moment, I think I'm just experimenting, talking to people, because I'm really passionate about wanting to help the children. And I think if we can, what my bigger vision is to go back into schools to talk to children and help them trust in themselves again and find out who they really are. And what I've been doing, I spoke to Jason Moody, who's, you know, used to be a policeman, about maybe, you know, the other end of how children get into trouble and look at ways they can prevent that. And I spoke to mums and asked them if they'll come do a podcast with me. And I spoke to people who had things happen to them. And I just want to bring people with their experiences in, and let's look at natural ways that we could prevent that, so that someone sitting out there can listen and go, I can see myself going down that road, or I can recognise that in my son, and I think we could help him.
And one good thing about it as well, what you're doing there, Dawn, is you're getting people talking. That's the thing as well. I mean, talking is so much, you know, you're relieving so much energy through talking. You and me, we've had a couple of chats together, but not a huge amount of chats. But, you know, we've drawn a bond here now, you and me talking together. And, you know, we've created a friendship. And that is, you know, talking to people is so awesome. And I just love, like I've said hundreds of times on this show, I love going into a pub by myself, scanning around, drawing people's energy, and then just going up to somebody and talking to them. And, you know, it's such an amazing thing, that, you know, the medium of communication. Yeah,
it is. And, you know, what you're doing is, I really admire that, because like you were talking to that guy who had been in trouble and come out the other end and now turned it around and helped other people. And it's like, there is someone sitting at home listening to this when it gets to wherever it's going, who will go, do you know what? I need to talk about this. This is what I'm feeling. And I think this is where, you know, what you're doing, I really admire it, because people are listening to you. You're just a normal guy coming out there and going, you're not got airs and... But you know what I mean? You're not coming out with airs and graces and saying, hey, look how qualified I am. You know, qualifications, yes, necessary somewhere, but you're just being a relatable guy saying, I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirts. Now let's find out a way we can help you. And I'm really, I'd love to follow in your footsteps. I would. I'll do a podcast with you.
Thank you, Dawn. That's lovely words. Thank you very much. I just find that, I mean, I've made mistakes in life. I don't mind. I used to be a bully, and I'm not ashamed of that, because I know it's a horrible thing, but I'm not ashamed of it because I'm proud of my life where I am now. I know what I was once upon a time, and like the, you know, Stephen Gillenor we was talking about, who committed all these crimes and stuff like that. You know, that's what he was then. This is what he is now, and that's like me. My past is very much different to what it is now. I've changed. I'm a better person. I've educated myself because I've talked to other people that educate me, and I hold my hands up in the air now. I talk a lot of rubbish at times, but I'll put my hands in the air if I make a mistake or if I say something wrong, and I should just say, look, okay, I've been taught, you know, you've educated me here. I hold my hands up, I'm wrong. And that's what's so good about education. And we've said it loads of times on this show. If people, politicians, MPs, leaders, if they just all got in a room together and done what we are doing here now and put their hands in the air and said, look, I'm wrong, we can sort this shit out. I just think that we'd be in such a greater world now than what we're in at the moment.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. You know, I don't think it's anything that can't be resolved if you can't sit and talk about it. And I think as well, listen to what we're saying. Like when I heard some of the things you have said, and I just think I could work with that guy. I know him. You know, I think we are drawn to the right people in our lives. I really do.
Yes, definitely.
And if anyone's listening to this, you know, after we're finished today, it's like if there's someone out there and they think, do you know what? I'm not sure what she's on about, but it resonates with me. I get that. Or if there's a teacher out there who says, yeah, I'm struggling. You know, I see that in my children. Please get in touch with us, because, you know, all we need to do is help one person at a time, and you can change lives. Yeah. Actually, you know, in my head, I set out, I think I said I was going to do impact 1,000 families. And then I heard myself saying, and it came out quicker than I thought, impact 1 million families. All you've got to do is touch one family plus another, and then they recommend. And imagine what a difference we can make in 5 years.
Well, when you said they impact 1,000 families, I was just like, no. You can do much better than that, Dawn. You know, make it 1 million or 1 billion. There's no reason why you can't. Think of it, communication, right, as like COVID. Now, I know it's not a great way of looking at things, but what I'm getting is, you know, the R rate of COVID, how it works. You know, you speak to one person, then next minute it's 4 people, then it's 18 or whatever it may be. You know, that's the way you got to look at things, because, you know, you talking on my show now, people listen to it. You know, people hear me on your show when you set one up, and, you know, word of mouth is the best medium. And you know, I've got no doubt that you're going to go on and do amazing things. I'm really looking forward to you when you get your podcast set up, because you're a really nice young lady, and you're just so bubbly, and you know what you want, you know what you believe in, and a lot of us can take a lot from that. Do you want to just round up and tell my listener then about your webpage, where we can find you, and then just quickly tell us the name of your book again, and then I think we're going to have to call it a day, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So it's www.dawn-chrystal, that's CHRYSTAL.com. The book that's already out there is called Divine Intervention. I've got a little book which is called Mr. Tree, Please Help Me, which is in the publisher. One called Transform Your Life, and another one, Free to Be Me. And they will be with us later this year. I am convinced.
And are you happy people emailing you? Have you got an email address that they can get hold of you?
Yeah, that's Dawn-Chrystal, with the H again. Dawn, CHRYSTAL 60, because my life all started again at 60, at gmail.com.
Awesome. I will put those links into my show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the Marc Jeffrey Show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and you're going to have to come back at another time, because like I say, I wrote down a few things here in front of me. We've covered most of them, but I think there's probably about another hour, 2 hours that we can talk here, Dawn.
We could stay up all night, couldn't we? Thank you so much, Marc. Thank you. Thanks
You're
so
welcome.
Much. Look forward to next time.
Yes, definitely. Catch you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, love. Thank you.